Are you ready? Ready? Are you too busy for God? Are you prepared for the afterlife? Is God an afterthought or your daily bread of life? Do you have the time for God? Can you spare some time with God? This community network. Minutes with God, don't get it twisted. Wrap yourself up in the law, don't get it twisted. Wrap yourself up in the law, don't get it twisted. Wrap yourself up in the law. This community network. Do you have the time for God?
So let's get to this last chapter of this book, the summary of it, because I know there's a lot of good things in it. I was reading some. You guys have questions in this book too, and I like that because those questions are really self-reflecting, and that's good. All right, so chapter 5, discovering and developing your gifts. What in the world brought that topic up to you guys as a principle? Let's talk about that.
Well, again, living the lifestyle that I lived prior to coming to Christ, I lived a very directionless life.
Okay.
Prior to meeting Ray, I had never had a goal. I never set a goal in my life. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And so when you live your life loosely, you don't have any boundaries, you don't have any reservations, but you also don't have any goals. And so when I met Ray, he began to recognize gifts that God had given me, God-given gifts, things that, and when I say that, these are things that you just do naturally, that it's not work for you to do. I'm strong in administration. I love to coordinate things and structure them, and my mind works well with structure, and so, but I lived a life that didn't have that. And then coming to Christ, Ray began to realize these things and point them out to me, and so I began to develop them. And we have a mentor that we study under, John Maxwell, and he talks about never try to strengthen your weaknesses. Always develop your strengths. Because it's wasted time. You're not strong in that. I'm not strong in networking. I'm the back of the house person. I like to coordinate everything that needs to make the show go on. I'm the back of the house.
So if we were playing football, you'd be a good referee.
Probably. Yeah. I definitely wouldn't be the quarterback.
Or quarterback. Maybe quarterback, coach, yeah.
But I'm not, that's just not my gifting, naturally.
I got you.
But Ray is a visionary. And so he gets this vision, and he's like, this is what I believe the Lord wants us to do. And my mind goes directly to all of the things that need to take place in order for it to happen. We got to have this, we have to have that, we're going to need this, we're going to do that. He sees the vision, I'm the one who implements the little intricate details to make the vision happen. And we've learned how to develop our giftings in that, right? I'm not very outgoing. I'm an introverted extrovert, actually. I refuel by alone time. I don't need a lot of friends. I'm happy with just a few. That's how I function well. Ray is a people person. He loves to be around crowds and people, and he's the front man. And that's how, that's his gifting, networking. He meets people and he connects them to this person and that. So we each have our own giftings, and we've learned how to develop them. And God will literally give you a career path where you're operating in your gifting, and it's not work. You'll love getting up every day and doing your job because now you're operating in a gifting that God actually gave you. You've developed it in such a way, and there's always room for growth. We have not arrived, and we will continue to grow and work on personal growth until we make it to our celestial heaven. So, that's just key to it. I think people don't see the giftings. They're trying to do something that they're not gifted to do, and it's so much work. So how do you do that? How do you discover your giftings? And we talk about that in the book. If it's something you love to naturally do, then you're gifted in it. If it's a forced thing, that's probably not your gifting. So don't do it. But yet, even for an introverted extrovert, when I get up and I speak about the things that God has done in my life, I step in my gifting. My gifting is to teach and to speak about Him.
I can see that. You guys really complement each other. And I was saying that the whole powerhouse ministry that you guys got going on, I see it. Other people see it. So it's definitely there. So discovering it first, and then developing it. So we first understand that the gift's there because either you read it in scripture and God gave you an identity about it, or you just started to do something and you realize, hey, this is fruitful, you know? And then now you're developing it. And so in the practice, you got to have opportunity to practice. And I think God opens those doors of opportunity. Because we all have to be 70 years old or however old that we're gonna, our peak is, whatever life God gives us, and we all got to tell our grandkids a story. We all have to have a story to tell, like, hey, don't do that. I know what that feels like.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We all got to have those teaching moments because we were taught by Him. And so developing. Tell me a little bit about how you guys developed this book.
Well, it was just what we were living. And when we decided to do it, we would go off on what we call a vision retreat for our marriage thing. And we would just sit down and pray and started thinking about but like what she said, I seen the vision first. We need to write a book, or Dr. Ray told us to write a book. And then we started seeing it, and then we just started putting it into practice. But maybe going a little sideways from that. So with me being a former bodybuilder before, then when I was training guards, training inmates, writing programs, I was developing the gift. Because I knew when I come back out, I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to start training pastors. I'm going to start training people in that field. So that was all development. And then even in there, I had books sent on personal training to get recertified. So that was all the groundwork still in there, getting ready to come out and use it for the glory of God, to flip the game, you know, and use it for the kingdom.
Yeah, and I painted it out that way because words just didn't come on a piece of paper out of nowhere, right?
Right.
So it came from vision, it came from prayer, and then it came from action. So I like that. You know, developing this book had those practices. But now you touched up on something of your formal experience as a bodybuilder. You would know best that when it's time to get biceps, you have to do certain exercises. And in order to develop your biceps, you know, you gotta exercise it, or exercise a certain way, or do something in order to get that. And so that's the same thing with the Christian life, is that, you know, we're growing spiritually in a direction that we know we're gifted in, but we got to develop it through exercise. Yeah, so pin it out and then get it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always say that the stuff I use for the world to get trophies and to win titles, if I did it for the world, how much more should I be sold out and do it for God, or the spiritual side of it, you know? If I got up early to go to the gym, why should I not get up early to get into my word? If I got early, you know, if I was dieting to win a show, why should I not diet or fast to get to do something for God, to really hear from God? You know, if I was sacrificed for the world, why not should I sacrifice for God, who died on the cross for me?
There it is. So developing your gift really starts with your mentality as well.
Right, your mindset.
So changing your mindset
Right.
on what you need to do in order to get where you need to go.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about somebody who is scared of exercising their gift, not in private, but in public. But yet God's calling that person to go out publicly.
I can speak on that. If it pulls you out of your comfort zone, it's God. Because He's always going to stretch us. He's always calling us for growth. He's always going to take us to a place where we have to do it outside of ourselves and trust Him to do it. I would be remiss to get up and think that I can do something on my own strength and do it effectively to where they're going to be touched. Hearts are going to be touched, and they're going to see the true transparency. It's only when I say, Lord, I could do this without you. I've prepared, but I don't want to do this without you, and I won't do it without you. So you need to step in and give me the ability to speak these words, because it's only when you anoint them that they become alive and change the lives of others. And I'm changed in the process. I'm energized by, because now I know I'm walking in a gifting that God has given me. And not only that, but lives are being touched and changed. When God spoke to us about this book, my first thing was, we don't know the first thing about writing a book. I do not know how to do this. So Lord, you're going to have to help us because I don't know what I'm doing. And every step of the way, he would put somebody in our path. I'm going to show you how to self-publish. Because we didn't have the money to go to a publisher. We were scraping by every month. But yet God gives you this thing to do, right? And are you going to trust him that he's going to bring the right people across your path? And sure enough, every step of the way, he would bring somebody who would speak about this or teach me that or show us how to do this. And that's how the book was birthed. And that's just been our entire journey. When we closed the doors to our business and we believed we had a God said that go into trucking. And everybody else outside looking in was like, you guys are nuts. Like, you're called to do this. And we did it anyways, knowing that we didn't have it all figured out. But if you get a God said and God told you to do it and it sounds crazy, most likely it's God, because he's stretching you. And he's seeing if you're going to be obedient, if you're going to launch out into the deep without a boat. He's the boat. He's the one who's going to get you there. And he's not going to give you directions for all of it. But get enrolled in school and then get your CDLs and then go over the road. And this is going to be super uncomfortable for you, Kathy, because you're going to be in a truck with a stranger for 3 weeks, right? Does that sound like something God would do? Absolutely. If it sounds like it's going to stretch you as a person and in your spiritual ability to trust him, absolutely he'll do something like that. And then the pandemic hits and all of a sudden you go from lack to having, and now you're meeting needs on a whole nother level. You're not physically training people, but you're meeting a need. You're an essential worker during a pandemic and you're delivering toilet paper to people who need it. Right? But we put God in such a box.
Yeah, that's so
and
true.
he's so not in a box. He's so much bigger than that. And he wants to take us places that you never dreamed. That's why I say in the book, this relationship thing with him, it's a journey. It's an adventure. And there's lots of twists and turns. And there's lots of things he doesn't show us. But if we're willing to ask, for his help and use our giftings and develop them, it's amazing where
Sky's
this
the
life will
limit.
take us. I was just going to say that, but it sounds so cliche. But yes, the sky is the limit.
Amen. So again, we're talking about discovering. We just tackled that. And we're talking about developing. So if you are scared to put your gift in the limelight, but yet God has called you to go to the limelight, to share something with somebody, even in a small setting, even your next door neighbor or someone at work, or if God's calling you to share something that he's given you, practice the principle of giving what you can give because you have it, because God's given it to you, because overall you can't give what you don't have. But if God's given it to you and he wants you to develop in it or help develop somebody else in it, it's the Lord. It's the Lord doing it. Remember that. It's not you, it's the Lord. He'll give you the inspiration. He'll show you. You'll know. And other people will come along and they'll affirm. That's why community is so important. I'm really big on community. They'll affirm. So that is good. That is good.
And we have learned, Ray and I, when God gives you a vision or he's launching you into a different territory or unknown territory, there's select few people that we'll talk to about it at first, because not everybody's going to support the direction that God has taken you. Because remember, they didn't get the God said, you did. And it's your job to stand on that and know that
solid.
God, I have a God said, and even though most of you aren't going to agree or even support me in this, if God said do it, that's, I'm a God pleaser, not a people pleaser. And he's much easier to please than people, trust me. And I learned that from my mom, after watching her through years of the ministry, watching my parents be a God pleaser, not a people pleaser, because it's just not going to happen. But trusting those dreams, those things that God has given you to step out and do, with a select few that you know are going to lovingly support you and give you direction and good advice, good solid biblical advice, you know.
Yeah.
And that's been key to us.
And
We
even
know
tell
who
you-
to tell stuff to and who not to tell stuff
That's
to,
important.
because
That's
people will
important.
come in and they'll start casting doubt and throwing seeds of, you know, various things, and they don't even know that they're doing that, but you know, in their way of trying to bring you about to see the light or whatever, you know. It's almost like Joseph, you know. He had a dream,
Mm.
and yet his brothers, they didn't see it the
Come
way
on.
he saw it, but he still had a dream.
He had a God dream.
God dream.
He just didn't have a good idea. He had a God idea. Amen. I love it, and that speaks volumes right there. Man, that's good. That's good. I love it. Yeah. Well, Ray and Kathy, thank you so much.
The world didn't give it to me. World can't take it from me. We own. This is for the king on the throne. Land attack on my zone. Carry my cross along. This my peace, shalom. This all a part of the plan. Ask Ray and Kathy land. Word to my inner man. Lord, I give you the bread while trying to make a change and get the gospel out. Showing what Christ about. Moving in your word. Yeshua I serve. Getting on Satan nerves. That's the power you heard. Land attacking we swerve. I am not of this world. Demons scurry like squirrels. Don't get a swine your pearls. My God is all I need. Once was blind but I see. The truth will set you free. The way, truth, and the life. That's Jesus the Christ. Land attack on the mic. That's cold as ice. Yeah, he paid the price. He paid the price. He paid the price. Yeah, he paid the price. Land attack in the house.